Okay, well, welcome everybody to the July iteration of our BRTV Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Group. I'm Eric Lashinsky from City of Annapolis, chairing the group. And I'm just gonna ask Charlene to do the conventional roll call where she'll name the jurisdiction. And if you're here to represent that jurisdiction, just let her know that you're present.
As always, we start with City of Annapolis.
Present.
Anne Arundel County.
Tanya is present.
Baltimore City. Baltimore County.
Present.
Carroll County.
Here.
Hartford County. Howard County.
Present.
Queen Anne's County. MDE.
Present.
Maryland Department of Planning. Maryland Highway Safety Office.
Good afternoon, everybody. Cynthia Spriggs present.
MDOT MTA.
Brittany, representing Baltimore Planning.
And MDOT SHA.
Hi everyone, Molly Porter, Bicycle and Pedestrian Coordinator.
Thank you. MDOT TSO.
Meg Young, Deputy Director of Active Transportation. We have a new person, if we have time for her to introduce herself too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, next thing would be any guests who want to introduce themselves, so we can start with that.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Quinn Wallace. I'm a new active transportation planner in MDOT TSO. Glad to be here. Thank you.
And do we have anybody else who's a guest today who'd like to introduce themselves?
William Rao, City of Annapolis, Department of Transportation.
Hi, I'm Liam Dorian. I am an intern at the Office of Active Transportation and Micromobility too. So I'm working with Meg.
Hi, everyone. It's Cindy Birch, a safety planner at BMC.
Hi, Tim Briggs, transit planner at BMC.
Zach Hoffman, also a transportation planner with BMC.
Welcome, everybody. Any members of the public here? Sometimes we have those.
I'm a member of the public.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Ellen Worthing. I've got a new computer, so I do not know if this is working properly or not, but I live in Baltimore City.
Thanks. Yeah, we got you came in fine. Thanks for joining. All right. Well, next item on the agenda, typical approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was in May. Those were all shared in advance. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes in a second. From anybody on the board here?
I'll second it. Wait, did you need a first?
We need a motion and
I'll motion.
Okay. Anybody on the board can second it.
Second.
Okay, thanks. All those in support, just say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, motion passes. Thank you all. Formality. We're going to get into a series of presentations today, as usual. Thanks to Charlene for helping to pull these together. Thanks for our presenters joining us. The first one is on sidewalk data collaboration and the OMOC initiative. We have Marshall Stevenson from MDOT SHA, John Beal from MDOT SHA, and Francine Waters from from MDOT Office of Environmental Sustainable Transportation, all joining us to talk about this. So I believe Charlene is going to share the screen, which she's done. Hand it over to Marshall or whoever from the team is starting first.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Charlene. Really appreciate the opportunity to share with you the One Maryland, One Centerline sidewalk data collaboration effort. And many of you have seen from the beginning what we have been working on, but we'd like to review how it started and where we are today. Next slide, please. So it started, this is our 2-year anniversary. It started in July in 2023. And as you can see, we had a number of stakeholders across the state, including BMC and all its affiliates as part of the collaboration and the working group that we established to look into the possibility of taking sidewalk data or amassing sidewalk data and putting it into One Maryland, One Centerline for use for planning purposes. Next slide. So why were we doing this? Well, we were doing it because we wanted to understand what our pedestrian infrastructure was, and to assess those gaps, accessibility, to find out where sidewalks could be making a change in accessibility, transportation, and of course, safety. Next slide. So what will we do with this? Well, this data helps with ADA compliance, regional and community planning, our Complete Streets initiatives, context-driven design, our pedestrian safety action plan, public transit, safe routes to school, which I know is on everyone's mind with the school. It's hard to believe that the summer is flying by, but it is. And now we're looking at schools starting and what are the opportunities to provide safe routes for our elementary, high school, our students, transit-oriented development, the impact of sidewalks on developing a transit-oriented development, sidewalks to get to bus stops, sidewalks to get to rail stations, transportation alternatives, and very much Vision Zero planning. Next slide. So I'm turning it over to Marshall Stevenson to speak to what One Maryland, One Centerline is all about.
All right, thanks, Fran. So yes, I'm going to talk about One Maryland, One Centerline, go through a couple slides here, 2 or 3 slides, just to give an overview of the program. This is where we are currently capturing the sidewalk data. Next slide, please. So One Maryland, One Centerline. Many of you might have already heard of One Maryland, One Centerline, or OMOC for short. Been doing this for many years now, using it as a mechanism to capture roadway improvements in the state that essentially equate to federal funds. So all the roads, local jurisdictions that are publicly maintained, submit those to the state. Those roadways are then sent over for federal government for essentially comes back as revenue. So it's good with OMOC that we have a funding source that keeps the foundation of this program going. Obviously, it's good to always have that going into these types of situations where you're trying to do a larger effort to have a federally funded, continually federal funded initiative behind it, or through the federal government. So with OMOC, it's authoritative data. It's leveraging the Centerline data coming from local jurisdictions in Maryland. So many of the counties, all the counties actually provide that data up to Maryland Department of Information Technology through their E911 program. And we leverage that data on a quarterly basis to conflate it to the OMOC network, which is our roadway network. So any type of new geometry, new road, new subdivisions, or roadway realignments that come in, that geometry is used as the foundation for OMOC, and having essentially a one Maryland, one centerline being one element of that, representing the entire state. And also, we do have a few select municipalities that provide their information too, but it is predominantly counties or county jurisdictions. The collaborative maintenance, it's maintained in OMOC as an enterprise roadway asset management system for roadway data. It has not just the roadway network, but about 150 plus roadway elements, and I'll go into those a little bit in the next slide. But this will cover, covers pretty much everything that is associated with the roadway, whether it be crash data, whether it be actual physical data. It's all referenced in this system. So it does create an authoritative repository of all roadway data elements. The timely updates before, in many years past, it was an annual update cycle. As our roads are changing, our data that lives on those roads or associated with those roads change. We've had to shrink that down even to potentially daily. So it's as frequent as the users can put data in. It'll be reflected and it'll be available in the system for users to extract out of the system. The optimized data, it's incorporating those local data sets from the state entities and local government. So as they're putting in all this different data sets, keeping data current, it's providing that latest and greatest data set available to all users in the system. The local LRS support, linear referencing. So if you don't know what an LRS is, just touching on it briefly, it is, imagine if you're looking at a section of road from one end to a county, from a county to another, and imagining a 5-foot breadcrumb trail along that road. So every 5 feet, there's a measured value. And at that point, at that measured value, that's where we note where certain elements will start being a linear feature, extend down that roadway, and end at the next measured value, almost like a ruler. Or if it would be a feature such as a point, like a sign, or that is just a fixed single location, that would just be one point at one measure value. So it gives that correlation to all the data elements that may share that measured value or that extent. So you could have 150 elements, let's just say at one location on the roadway, which doesn't happen, but it could. But you could know exactly what elements occur at every 5-foot interval along that roadway. So the asset information sharing aspects of it, it facilitates the sharing of the asset information between the states and local jurisdictions. We want to share information. This is not just a system to collect information. We want to be open and sharing as much back to everybody, especially people that are putting information in. We want them to get their information out, but then also get all the other information that is in the system back out and available to them. So there is a benefit to utilizing the system. The centralized data access, single source of authoritative data, that is always key. We want many of the folks that are putting data into One Maryland, One Centerline are the authoritative data owners. We want to identify those. So we have many stakeholders from many departments. We have MDTA doing it for their incident plans, for freeway traffic, FITM plans, their freeway incident traffic management plans, for detour routes. MDTA with their bus routes and bus stops. Obviously, with the sidewalk initiative, we're getting local jurisdictions to put their local sidewalk data into the system. So it's really key to have that, and not have just us being SHA or MDOT put in data as secondhand and not really knowing when the data changes. So having that centralized data access for input and getting the data back out is critical. And then automated notifications. We try to make it something where there is added value to the system, where they get notifications. Users can get notifications if a sidewalk would change or any type of feature would change. They could be notified of that, and it'll prompt them to maybe look into that to see, okay, what example being a roadway is realigned. We could have anybody that has sidewalk along that roadway get notified that their sidewalk may have changed due to a roadway realignment, and they might want to check it out. So it could be prompted by other people changing data on the roadway network, and then lets other people know that their data could need updating as well. Next slide, please. So the One Maryland, One Centerline events I mentioned, as far as the 150 plus, there are a lot of fundamental ones like lane width, number of lanes, shoulder present, not present. And then we have a lot of other ones that we've added additionally to beyond the core. And this kind of, relevant to this topic and this discussion today, we've incorporated a list of, events that are in there that might be related to any type of pedestrian safety or other elements. But you can see a pretty extensive, I'm not going to go through every one of them. Most of these data sets are, I would say, mostly on state roads, but however, there are others that are not, that go well beyond that. Example being like signals. We have every signals data set or every signals record in the system for the state minus Baltimore City. The other ones like MTA, bus routes, and bus stops, some of those even go into DC, and we have those in the system, especially the routes going into DC for the commuters. We do have, I'm just seeing some other ones, ADT, that would be also on local roads. Trying to go through the bicycle events too. They're all in there, and one is mentioned there is the level of traffic stress. We do have a compilation of that. That's how we calculate the level of traffic stress. It's all derivatives out of OMOC. So it has speed, it counts for the speed limit, it counts for the lane width, the shoulder presence, and all those other factors that go into calculating the level of traffic stress. And we can run that at any time through OMOP based on the data events within. I think that'll cover it, and I'm going to go to the next slide and turn it over to John Bell.
Thanks, Marshall. So like Marshall was saying, that there's quite a bit that you can do with this data once you share your data with things. So for example, once somebody buys into using the OMOC network to house their events, they then have access to those 150 or so events that they can create these custom data sets with. And that's, like he said, how we were able to create those level of traffic stress things for bicycles. So things like the speed limit, shoulder width, traffic, how wide the lanes are, functional classification of the road, all those things got put into a recipe that then created a score for that road that determined the traffic stress. There's other things that are used in this system as well. Segment Analyzer will generate any kind of recipe that you could think of as far as like a custom output. So you can say specifically, like, I only care about the functional classification and maybe the speed limit on this road and what it's called, and you can create something based on that. Or you could use your events to go over top of it. And then anybody else can also take your sidewalk events and create custom events for themselves. We have visualization tools as well, like our road analyzer program. So it's more of a straight line diagram that you can see everything that's going on a road at a specific measure. And you can also line that up with Google Street View and see it exactly where it is on the road at the same time it integrates into it. You can program any of these jobs to run with another application we have called Job Execution Manager. So you can schedule to run a segment analyzer program monthly that'll spit something out. So like our Job Execution Manager is what triggers these notifications for people. So if the geometry of your event were to change because there was a road realignment, then we would let you know, hey, there's potential that your sidewalk has moved. You may want to go in and collect your information on it in terms of, when it was collected and all the other stuff, what side of the road, etc. Next slide, please. So who can enter this? So pretty much anybody. At its core, creating the data is not very difficult. It's mainly just selecting a route, telling the system exactly where you want it to begin and end, and then placing the attribution to it. Right now, in terms of sidewalk data, no real experience is necessary. We usually do some pretty quick, like maybe 1 hour trainings on how the software works and how to collect. And then we turn people loose. Liam introduced himself a little bit earlier. He's an intern with no GIS experience, no, pedestrian safety experience either. And he's already well on his way. I think he's over 2,000 segments that he's created within, I don't know, maybe a month or so now. So once you get somebody started on it, if they can devote a fair amount of time to it, they can get a lot accomplished. We also go through. We have folks here at SHA that are going through and monitoring the data so that if there is any oddities with how things are being collected, we can get back and give feedback and maybe redirect and do some new training just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. And we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So this was the road analyzer program. So this is the straight line diagram tool that you can see. It's kind of hard to see on this screen right here, but that little bar that's going down the center on the bottom, that is indicating precisely what measure that you're at along the road, and you can scroll back and forth with that, and it would move you to the part of or the measure of the road that you drag it to. And if you look up and down there, you can see like the road name and who maintains and where the sidewalks start and end. So you can see it looks like at that measure, we had a sidewalk that changes from just left to both. So probably if we turn that camera around, you'd see it off in the distance, perhaps on both sides of the road. And what's nice about that is as you drag it, it will move Google Street View with it. So you can continue to maintain things within there. So it's nice to confirm what you've collected in terms of things. If you needed to do like a condition assessment just based on Street View, you can see it in this. So it is very helpful. And all these applications, anybody that's using them has access to it. It's all web-based. Nothing needs to be downloaded. You're simply handing over an email address for us to put you into have access for it, and then you can immediately start making edits and using any of these tools. Next slide, please. So this is the segment analyzer program, and this is the most beneficial, in my opinion, of any of the applications that we use in this. So Marshall likes to use a recipe analogy for this. So just think of everything on the left-hand side of that screen as your ingredients and your recipe being on the right. So if you look, maybe you wanted to create something, it's simple as taking what's on the left and clicking it and pushing it over to the right. And then you can see it's going to segment each thing every time one of those events changes. So, if at measure 1, the sidewalk changed from left to right, it would create another record or another shape. So this thing places out CSV files, database tables, and shapes as well. So you can create pretty much anything that you want out of it. You may just want a table somewhere, or just a spreadsheet just to show somebody how many things are collected in a given place. You can get all of that from there. And on to the next slide. Okay, and as far as the progress is concerned right now, this is accurate, I think, up until Monday. So about a month ago, we only had half of this. We've actually, SHA's picked up another dedicated resource to this for the last month or so, and Liam is a TSO intern. I think TSO actually picked up one more intern that's going to be working on this that is going to start training tomorrow. So you can see 26,000 sidewalks in probably a little bit under a year now. since we went live with it, is a pretty good turnout for things. We have a really good mix of different counties and municipalities that are working through this, so we're making great progress. We hope to get more counties involved. The more people that can get into this, the more complete we can make the entire network. And we can go to the next slide. I think this might be my last one. So this is where we're covered. So as you can see, pretty much everywhere, as far as counties are concerned, have sidewalk coverage. I think with the exception of maybe Worcester and Washington counties. But everywhere else, there are sidewalks. The greater Baltimore area is definitely has the most coverage in terms of segments right now, but along the state highways throughout the state, there's a good amount of coverage now. And I think we can probably go on to the next one. That's back to Francine. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm going to go through these case studies pretty quickly because in deference to time. Next slide. So what we were looking at is practicality of how can you use this? How can you identify those gaps? Next slide. So we did looked at a metro rail station accessibility and a school. And by looking, next slide, by looking at what the network is and where the rail station is, we were able to assess, next slide, by putting in, by looking at the population, the number of that population that are commuting, the description of all within that population. Next slide. If we were to put in these sidewalk where there are gaps, we'd be able to increase the number of our population accessibility by 6%, over 6%, access over 7% of those who could commute, and also access a greater population. Next slide. So looking at a school as an example. Next slide. If we were to add this network of sidewalks, the population would increase by 53%, the youth population by 37%, and the non-white population by 40%. So when you're looking at safe routes to school, encouraging safe access to schools, and for the students to have access, this is an incredible tool to be able to be used. Next slide. So there are tiers involved in the application of the sidewalk data, and the idea is that this was only just using tier 1. So we didn't even get into how wide is the sidewalk, are there any obstructions? And so this tool is extraordinarily valuable in accessing the gaps and your population and how it improves the accessibility to the entire population of an area. Next slide. So where are we going with this? We, of course, hope that the counties and jurisdictions, municipalities can all work together to get the sidewalk data into the system so that we can all have access to it and use it and be able to understand where those gaps are. And eventually we would like to be able to put a pedestrian access moniker on these sidewalks. Where do these sidewalks take you to transit, to schools, to grocery stores, etc. So we're excited to at some point be able to do that pedestrian accessibility score. Next slide. And with that, I'd like to just, if anyone has any questions of Marshall and John and I, this is how you can reach us. And we hope that you will consider getting that training that John has offered and be able to start entering sidewalk data into the system. And I want to thank BMC for providing us the sidewalk base, which we greatly appreciate, which has helped us move forward in this project. So Charlene, thank you very much. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Did our BPAG members have any questions?
Well, I just want to say how impressive this is. I really kind of blown away by the vision here and the effort to kind of coordinate what all the jurisdictions are doing, and I can definitely see how we would be using it here in Annapolis. So thanks for walking us through this. I know we have staff here I think would probably benefit from it right away. So
thank you, Eric. Well, we're available to help in any way we can, help and support.
Great. Looks like Cindy has her hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I can't see my camera to know if you can see me well or not, so I'll turn that back off. I had a quick first, great job. OMOC is definitely not common around the country, so it's definitely a coup in Maryland that you guys have a system set up like this, especially incorporating all the local roads and facilities. I just had a quick question. It sounds like it's all manual data upload to it from the locals. Has there been any discussion, or might it be possible for those that have similar systems at the local level that the OMOC could tap into that and kind of do it as an electronic transfer?
Yeah, so I can touch on that. So yes, we get that question a lot. As far as, it would be nice if there was one of those stable, easy buttons to get that accomplished.
Yeah, I'm sure it's much easier said than done.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where yes, it's possible, and yes, we've done it, but with sidewalk data, it becomes very challenging to get it accurately associated to the roadway network because you're referencing it to the network. So you can imagine if you have sidewalk center line data in your jurisdiction and there's an offset, and especially like when you get to intersections and other things like that, is where do you really want it to start and stop? Because with the center line, if you can imagine an intersection, just as a basic intersection, a cross basically, you're going to probably want that sidewalk data to go all the way to the intersecting roadway to show you have coverage of that sidewalk from basically between each roadway. If you did, let's just say your geometry and it would cut it short, it may not go around there or cover that entire intersection. It might fall short of it depending on how it's rendered. So I guess what I'm getting at, there's more work in cleaning it up than actually putting it in the system. And keep in mind too, you're not redrawing your segmentation, you're just referencing it to the roadway. So you're saying I have sidewalk from this point to this point, and that's it. I'm not drawing anything. I'm basically 2 clicks, and now I have coverage there. And what we have done with some of the local jurisdictions, municipalities, is get that data from them, and we'll put that in the system so they can use it as a visual indicator. So it's just a layer, and then they'll be able to see it right there corresponding to the roadway and say, okay, I want it to start here and I want it to end here, and it's going to be on the left side or the right side, because that's also a challenging thing too, especially when you got divided highways and such. So there's nuances in the data, especially when you're talking more urban areas that you would see in the BMC, that makes that data even more challenging to conflate because of those nuances. And then trying to catch them and fix them is more work than just putting it in right to begin with.
Great. Thanks, Marshall. I actually understood everything you said, not being a technical data person on that end with layers and stuff and GIS. So thank you again. A great program you guys have over there.
Yeah, and just with the BMC, I know Meg mentioned it too with the Ecopia data. We have integrated that into the system, and that's been a great help as a reference layer. So we've used what's essentially BMC acquired. We worked through that agreement with the Ecopia, so we have it as a reference layer in the system. And just so you know, the little bit of the legal side of things with that was really the only way we could make it work. If we were to basically take their data and automate it and just make it part of it, or do some more of that, it becomes a little bit more of a legal challenge there. So by just using it as a visual indicator, we got over that hurdle of utilizing that data set as a reference layer in OMOC for sidewalks.
I don't know if you have any more questions, but I wanted to make note that I know Marshall and Christine and John presented yesterday at the Sidewalk Data Collaboration Workshop, and wanted to reiterate that they're available if you have questions, you want to learn more about how your staff can help add data or what you can do with the data. They're always happy to meet with you all. I think it's a really great resource. I'm also happy to chat if you guys have ideas, and we can help talk to MDOT about how we can use this data to help our planning be better.
Yeah, and Charlene, just one thing that did come out of yesterday too, that I think was key was if there are use cases, certain things that say, hey, I'm looking to get this type of answer, being, okay, I have bus stops and I'm looking to identify, the pedestrian strikes at bus stops with, from a crash standpoint, and utilizing all of this data that's in OMOC to make those data-driven decisions, because that's what it's about. We don't want to just be putting data into a system and then it just sit there and like, oh yeah, we got this great system, but not actually leveraging it. And it would be very beneficial, to have some initiatives like we've done with the level of traffic stress for bicycle, to look at some of those scenarios and see what we can do to get that information back out of the system, because the more users we get doing those types of scenario type outputs, the better the data is in the system, because it helps identify where we have issues or discrepancies in the data. So looking for partners in all levels, I guess is what I'm saying, not just from putting the data in, but utilizing the system and what is currently in there to do that data-driven decisions.
Thanks, Marshall. Well, again, much appreciated for joining us and the thorough overview. And we're going to move on to the next presentation. So feel free to stick around if you'd like. But we do have Zach Kaufman here from BMC, who's going to give us an update on the transportation needs assessment, public engagement outcomes that are going to feed into the long-range transportation plan. So I will hand it off to Zach.
Yes, good morning.
Zach, you're going to share their presentation? Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Great. So it should have allowed you.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
All good.
All good.
Yep.
Looks good.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Zach Kaufman. I am a transportation planner here at BMC. I work primarily with the long-range transportation plan, and I'm here to present results from our transportation needs assessment. As Eric said, this will inform our work on the long-range transportation plan, which is really kind of just gearing up. So I'll do a quick overview of the project with a focus on our public research survey and focus groups, and then look at some of the research findings grouped by overall results, and then focusing on some of our individual LRTP goals, modes and accessibility, system safety, environment, and then future investment and priorities. And then finally cover some draft policy recommendations that we hope to integrate into the next iteration of the LRTP, or long-range transportation plan. Okay, quick project overview. So as I said, the project is framed around the development of the next LRTP. And so as a result of that, we've framed the project around the long-range transportation plan goal areas. For those of you that aren't familiar, the long-range transportation plan includes all projects the region anticipates implementing with federal funds over the next 20 to 25 years. And development of the goals and associated strategies is really one of the first steps for the long-range plan. The core goals for the LRTP include improving accessibility, increasing mobility, improving system safety, improving infrastructure, and implementing environmentally responsible transportation solutions, improving system security, and promoting prosperity and economic opportunity. And so framing the project around these goals helps us to learn about needs in the context of these goals and enables us to kind of seamlessly integrate what we've learned from this project into various categories of the LRTP, specifically looking at strategies associated with each goal. So every goal kind of remains fairly similar from one long-range plan to the next, but we have various strategies informed by our work that will help us to achieve that goal. And so we want to look and say, are we accounting for the needs, barriers, and priorities we learned about in this work? Also, are we tracking the right things? Are we measuring the right things? So are there some performance measures that we should be tracking to help us to assess whether we're making progress on addressing the identified needs? And finally, we score every project that is submitted for the LRTP. And so we want to evaluate our technical scoring criteria, which again are derived directly from those LRTP goals, and say, are we evaluating potential projects in the right ways? So we began this project by looking at existing surveys and research. The consultants reviewed, I think, maybe 30-ish different studies from local, state, and regional sources to kind of take advantage of work that has already been done in this space. We also did an existing conditions analysis. That's kind of a public-facing story map that will be posted on our website once we launch the LRTP. This is really intended to analyze and form a baseline as to how our region is performing right now relative to the LRTP goals of, accessibility, safety, et cetera, and can be updated for future iterations of the LRTP. The core of the work was the focus groups and the survey, that public research that I mentioned earlier. That happened from March to May. And so right now we are analyzing the results from that and formulating policy recommendations and beginning to present the findings. So in terms of public engagement, we administered a survey in March and April that garnered 859 responses from participants across the region. This was really focused on transportation system users rather than, professional and technical stakeholders. So a lot of responses from Baltimore City and Baltimore County, and significant numbers from Carroll County at 14%, Howard at 11%, and Anne Arundel at 9%, and then smaller numbers in Hartford and Queen Anne's County. In addition, we supplemented this survey research with 4 focus groups. These were designed to gather more in-depth feedback on the transportation system, key needs and barriers, as well as future priorities. Again, we had 4 focus groups and they had about 7 to 8 participants each, 31 participants overall. We wanted to understand any key differences in the transportation experiences of respondents from lower opportunity areas. And lower opportunity areas are derived from the Baltimore Regional Housing Partnerships Opportunity Map. This tool utilizes 21 indicators such as things like employment, poverty, school performance, economic characteristics, commute time, to determine opportunity. And areas in the 2 greens there, the low and very low areas on this metric were classified as lower opportunity areas. We oversampled in those areas and received 250 responses. We also, as part of the survey, asked about what modes users use regularly. Now, these aren't mutually exclusive. So there's people often use multiple modes, of course, but drivers, 84% report driving regularly, 43% reported using transit at least somewhat regularly, and 66% were regular active mode users. Okay, so getting into some of the results. We asked, how well does the transportation system meet your travel needs? And we're pleasantly surprised to find that 54% said that the transportation system meets their needs somewhat well or very well. So 54% favorable. That leaves 40% that said not at all or poorly, but still a majority saying a favorable result. Now, this varied from about 33% was the low in Hartford County to 60% in Baltimore City. Lower opportunity areas were at 58%. Of course, they kind of overlap quite a bit with Baltimore City. So that's why those percentages are quite similar. But overall, respondents in Baltimore City at 60%, transit riders at 63%, and active mode users at 59% were most likely to say the system meets their needs well or very well. And kind of diving into that a bit, we found from the focus groups that people that had or felt like they had more transportation options tended to rate the transportation system higher in terms of how well it worked for them. So there's some quotes here. You know, there's a guy from Baltimore City that said, I run, I walk, I bike, I take the circulator, I take a lot of these things. I couldn't use any one of them exclusively, but I have lots of options. When we asked people what the most important characteristics of the transportation system were for them, and these are kind of framed around those LRTP goals again, and we get more specific as we go on, but people said that reliability and efficiency by far were the most important thing at about 69%, followed by meets my travel needs at 46%, and it's safe for travel at 46%. And again, that's kind of that reliability and efficiency is kind of related to transportation options. People wanted a multitude of options to be able to get to places safely and reliably. Moving into modes and accessibility. With a focus on active transportation, we found that 2 in 3 respondents at 66% say they use active modes, walking or rolling, biking, or riding a scooter for at least some trips. And the chart here shows lower opportunity areas compared to all respondents. Walking or rolling was most common among active modes at 62% overall. Bike at 28% and scooter at 6%. And you see that those percentages, particularly for walking and biking, or rather walking and scootering, were a lot higher in lower opportunity areas. Of course, there's some jurisdictional variance as we would expect, but among those who use active modes for at least some trips, 95% walk, 42% bike, and 10% ride a scooter. However, unsurprisingly, more than 2/3 of respondents say they drive as their primary mode of transportation. And that number is quite a bit lower in lower opportunity areas at 45%. Active walking is next at 11%, followed by public bus at 7% and biking at 6%. Although the walking and rolling and public bus as their primary option is much higher in lower opportunity areas at 18 and 16%. And probably unsurprisingly, 60% of respondents who use active modes for some trips say they actually drive most often. So pretty car centric, but I think we know that. For most participants, driving really felt like a lived necessity, regardless of where they were. They said it would be impractical or impossible to get some places without a vehicle, and others felt that cars were, you know, a lot more practical or convenient. And so there are a number of quotes here that support that. There was a person from Baltimore County who couldn't drive because of a disability, and so they always have to take into account if they're able to physically get somewhere. Sometimes they can't when they're invited to do things. A woman from Howard County felt like she was, you know, designed to stay where she was. She said you really can't go anywhere without a car. She was having some problems figuring out the transit system. So anyway, that kind of theme of Baltimore being a bit car centric was pretty common in the focus groups. However, many were really interested in active transportation options. They see walking, biking, and active modes as appealing for speed, reliability, and convenience. People dreaming of being able to walk to work, of wanting more sidewalks and bike lanes so they can get places close by their houses. So yeah, that was a common theme. We then asked people what their top use and access concerns about the transportation system were, and really active transportation infrastructure topped that list, beating out congestion and public transit being limited. So sidewalks missing or in poor condition was the top response at 47%, followed by bike lanes at 45%. So those were the top access challenges. Then we asked people more specifically about a broad suite of barriers related to active transportation. What stops them from using active modes more often? And respondents said that distance, safety, and lack of infrastructure were the most common barriers to choosing active modes more often. Destinations are too far away was 45%, afraid of faster aggressive drivers, 37%. Route missing bike lanes or paths, 35%, dangerous intersections or lacking crosswalks, 31%. We then followed up by asking how likely people would be to use those modes more often if these challenges were reduced or improved. And 68% of respondents said that they're likely or very likely to use active modes more often if some of those barriers were improved. So there definitely is pent-up demand if people feel like they have safe and adequate facilities to get to where they want to go via active modes. Several said that their communities are just not set up to use active modes, especially in suburban areas. You had people recognizing, well, I choose to live in the suburbs, so you're kind of choosing that farther away from things balance. But it would still be nice if I could walk to get groceries or to the closest restaurant. Other people pointing out, there are things that are close by, but I can't walk because there's no bike lane or no shoulder and it feels unsafe. These things are interrelated. We've talked about safety already a bit, but then we specifically asked about what are your top safety concerns with the transportation system, and driver behaviors, vehicle speeds, and safe spaces for non-drivers topped the list. Aggressive and distracted drivers were the top concerns at 66% and 55%, followed by speeding vehicles and lack of safe spaces for non-drivers. And so you saw lots of quotes surrounding aggressive driving, speeding, texting while driving, running red lights, feeling unsafe as a pedestrian or bicyclist. And participants in the focus groups said that they'd like to have more sidewalks, crosswalks, bike lanes, and they'd like to see drivers following the traffic laws. And when they felt unsafe, they saw cars and drivers as the root cause of their safety issues, whether they were biking, walking, or also driving. So some of these same complaints, I see drivers ignoring walking signals. I'd like to see more visible crosswalked. I'd like to see a more complete network. It's a little bit patchwork right now. I think these are probably things that you are familiar with and hear often in your day-to-day work as active transportation planners. We also asked about environmental challenges, availability of non-car transportation options topped the list. So very relevant to your work at 57% and 59% in LOAs, but also some other things that are relevant, like lack of shade trees along sidewalks at 40 and 49%. You could add, air pollution affects walkers and bikers quite a bit. Those were top concerns, as well as noise. So a lot of things that interrelate to active modes were environmental concerns. Finally, we asked about investments and priorities. So we asked first if people would be willing to pay more taxes, tolls, fares, or a vehicle fee, for example, for a better transportation system. And 68% said they would, including the same percentage in lower opportunity areas at 68%. Now that varied a bit from around 50% in Carroll and Harford County to about 80% in Baltimore City, but still a majority in every jurisdiction. Now, when we heard from people in the focus groups, it was interesting, like most said yes, but there were a lot of caveats. There was some hesitance or a lack of belief that, that the right kinds of transportation improvements would be implemented, some skepticism that the dollars would be used responsibly. So they said yes, but we would like to be sure that, they would actually be used in ways that they considered improvements to the transportation network. In terms of the types of investments they prioritize, we looked at regional priorities as well as local community priorities. Several things bumped out or jumped out for active transportation. Transit topped the list for both, but for regional improvements, people prioritized increased mixed-use walkable development at 39%, as well as improved bike connections to transit, schools, and jobs at 32%. There was also strong support for added or improved bike lanes and improved sidewalks for local community investments. Okay, so how are we going to use this data? As I said earlier, we're going to use it to improve strategies associated with every goal area, potentially improving or adding to the criteria that we utilize to score projects, as well as identifying performance metrics that we should track. So I think I'm just going to skip through this, but we ultimately are going to get so what this slide shows is the strategies associated with one goal, improving accessibility. And there are a number of strategies that can help us to improve accessibility. And ultimately, what we're expecting is specific recommendations or additions for strategies that we're not currently considering that we learned about from this needs assessment. Now, I want to stress that these draft policy recommendations are very draft. We just got them from the consultant. We're expecting a more detailed set of recommendations, but here are a few that I've kind of brought out from the report that they gave us that are related to active transportation. The first is to add a set of scoring criteria focused specifically on standalone active transportation projects, which would expand the scoring criteria beyond the current roadway and transit projects. So when we evaluate projects for the LRTP, every project is scored, but they tend to be large-scale roadway and transit projects. But we've heard growing interest in incorporating standalone active transportation projects into the LRTP, and that would require a new scoring mechanism for those projects. The good news is that this recommendation is actually already in process via a UPWP project, and you'll hear about that next from Charlene. For accessibility, we currently evaluate projects based on the degree to which they improve access to jobs, but we could add a new project scoring criterion to account for access to non-employment destinations, because of course, we know that people need to get to more things than just their job. They need to get to healthcare, groceries, green space, leisure, all kinds of things. From the environmental questions, we learned that shade tree coverage and noise pollution were environmental concerns. So we could add strategies and scoring criteria related to tree canopy coverage and noise pollution. For economic prosperity, we currently score projects based on whether they're in sustainable communities or opportunity zones, but we could add a scoring criterion related to shortening distance and trip times, because we learned that people care about mixed-use walkable communities. And so if we can bring essential origins and destinations together, that would be a useful thing for active transportation. Finally, in terms of safety, we could add a strategy and associated scoring criteria related to unsafe driving behaviors through infrastructural as well as educational countermeasures. We do a pretty good job of evaluating infrastructural, but we could improve maybe our scoring based on educational countermeasures. So that's kind of a quick tour of some draft policy recommendations, but again, I expect that these will become more detailed as we continue to flesh those out with the consultant. Next steps. So again, expand and further detail the policy recommendations. That should be coming soon. We'll have a final report synthesizing kind of all the previous elements along with the survey and focus group findings and the policy recommendations. We also have a follow-up video that the consultant is working on to showcase some interviews that they did with focus group participants to kind of have a more visual, interactive presentation of people's transportation stories and their needs and challenges. And finally, we're going to have a presentation to the BRTB actually next week at the July BRTB meeting. Okay, so this is my contact information along with the consultants that are working on the project. We're working with ICF and PRR. And yeah, that's all I had for you. So happy to take questions by email or right now if people happen to have any. I know that was a lot of info.
Any questions from board? Was a lot, but very comprehensive. You're still sharing your screen, Zach, just FYI.
Oh, okay. Let me get the
I
presentation
know
back up.
the next presentation is going to tie into what you kind of led into it, which is great.
I guess I don't know if you're short on time. I'm curious if anything surprised anyone from this, or if this pretty much dovetails with what folks hear from their constituents and within their local jurisdictions. I don't think anything super surprised me in the active transportation realm. I think that, people's priorities around safety make a lot of sense, and in places being too far away. And I think there is a lot of pent-up demand for active transportation. I believe that people would use facilities if they connected to places they wanted to get to. Anyway, just curious if anyone found anything surprising.
Nothing surprising from my end, I'll say.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thanks all. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Zach. Much appreciated. We'll share, move on to the related presentation that Charlene's going to give, which is, essentially picking up on that point Zach made about this interest and opportunity in more dedicated standalone bike and pedestrian capital projects. And happy to see the thinking going into this. So hand it over to Charlene.
Thank you. As you know, I'm the active transportation planner at BMC, and working with Zach on this project that's just kicking off that he's actually going to lead for the long range transportation plan, bicycle and pedestrian scoring methodology. Great. So the purpose of this project is to develop a process for better integrating these standalone active transportation projects into the LRTP. Currently, they are not scored as standalone transportation projects. So this will involve the creation of a comprehensive scoring system, policy recommendations on how to incorporate and fund standalone active transportation projects and initiatives that are going to be in the long range plan. So with the policy questions part, the project team will engage a steering committee made up of our local members to facilitate discussion on key policy questions related to elevating active transportation projects and with a focus on project scoring. Then we will also do a peer metropolitan planning organization comparison. So identifying 5 to 7 peer MPOs that have successfully and effectively prioritized bike and ped standalone projects in their long range transportation plan to see what we can learn from their experience. As a part of the MPO comparison, they'll be conducting interviews. So those will be focused on the criteria used to score the projects, cost estimation methods, and the policies and programs related to incorporating the bike ped projects into the LRTP, especially relating to funding and implementation. And also information collection processes for standalone bike ped projects. So next we would create a scoring methodology and criteria. So this would involve developing a detailed scoring methodology, identifying the data needed to complete the project scoring, and then creating a project submittal form that would be used by local and state agencies. And as well as part of the project, there would be the policy recommendations. So that would involve developing clear, actionable policy recommendations for integrating standalone active transportation projects into the long range transportation plan. So that's just a quick overview of this project that is kicking off. Does anyone with BPAG have any questions? And do we have any questions from other attendees?
All right. Well, hearing none, thank you, Charlene, for the quick, concise presentation. Look forward to seeing the projects that are proposed out of this. So we have one more presentation here for the roundtable, and that is just an update on the tip from Miriam at BMC. Hand it over to you.
He's gonna share.
Hi, everyone. Let me just get this up and running with the screen share, and then I'll get started. Can everyone see the slides?
No, my screen share.
Okay, let me try again.
Stop share.
I'm seeing them on my end.
Now I can see them. Yep.
Great. And when I press present, do you still see them?
Yeah, it's on the presenter side, I think. Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay, so it's good. Great.
That's fine. Go ahead. Yep, you're good.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. I'm presenting today on the 2026 to 2029 Transportation Improvement Program, also known as the TIP. I'm presenting on the public comment period and some active transportation takeaways. Just to give a quick overview on the TIP, if you're not familiar already, there are 173 federally funded and regionally significant projects on this TIP cycle, and 9 are new projects this year. This accounts for about $6.2 billion in proposed federal, state, local, and toll funds. About half of that is federal, and the rest is state, local, and toll. This includes highway, transit, bicycle, and pedestrian projects, among other categories. And the goal is to maintain, operate, and expand the transportation system. So all the projects support long-range transportation goals, safety, prosperity, economic opportunities, environmental responsibilities, and it is funding limited, so the program funds can't exceed what's reasonably expected to be available from state, local, and federal sources. The funding by agency this year, we have a lot of toll revenue from the MDTA, and most of that is going towards the key bridge rebuild. And this chart shows the rest of the funding and where it comes from. And then we're talking about funding by topic. The largest category is highway preservation at 50% of all programmed funds, followed by transit preservation, commuter rail preservation. As you can see, there's a lot of system preservation going on in the TIP. Just to note, highway capacity went down from 30% a few years ago to 8.6% now, and that was partially in response to public feedback and shifting priorities in the region. Talking about active transportation, we have 17 projects that are focused on active transportation facilities. They're listed here for a total programmed funding of $114 million. Adding to that, dozens of other highway and bridge projects also include or consider active transportation facilities. For example, this I-695 bridge replacement on Putty Hill Avenue, that's a state highway administration project. It includes bicycle compatible shoulders and sidewalks on both sides of the bridge. And we see that in various bridge and highway projects that some of them include different types of bicycle compatible shoulders, some include shared use paths even, some include sidewalks, some are improving their sidewalks to be ADA compliant. And so that's really good to see that even when we do look at highway preservation or highway capacity, we're seeing active transportation scattered throughout the TIP. I just wanted to note that we also care about air quality conformity with TIP projects. We have to ensure that the projects in the TIP do not make air quality worse or delay the attainment of national ambient air quality standards. At the end, I'll give you the contact information for my colleague, Anna Marshall. She is our environmental planner who can talk more onto this point. Going to the public comment period. The comment period was open from May 15th through June 15th, 2025. We had 19 outreach events throughout the region where staff went out to talk to people about the tip in person. And we've received comments from individuals and from organizations. Recently, as of earlier this week, we've responded to all the tip comments, and the BRTB comment responses are online. I'll be sharing that link with you on the last slide, where you can go and see all the comments, all the responses, all the survey responses, infographics on all these topics. And so that's now up online as of early this week. One starter question that we asked to get a feel of how people feel about transportation infrastructure. This is a similar question to what Zach shared that he asked in the needs assessment, is how satisfied people are with the current transportation infrastructure. We're seeing that there's a large percentage that feel okay about it, like 32%, but there's also a large percentage, the majority, feel not great to just okay. And we get about 9% feeling pretty good or great. So we do see there's a lot of room for improvement in what we're hearing from our particular survey respondents. We also wanted to know, given that, do people feel the tip will help fix problems and make it easier to travel in the region? We are seeing a lot of a little and somewhat, so people feel the tip does have some potential to help. The projects in the tip will help fix problems. A little bit smaller, mostly, and very much, and 18% aren't very confident that the tip will help at all. We also asked specifically about the community. Will the tip help community specifically of the respondent? A lot of people had doubts about that. About 30% felt yes, for sure, the tip will help. Ellen, are you going to hold questions till the end?
I have a question, and my new computer's doing strange things.
Are you able to hold it till the end of the presentation?
Okay.
Will be open
All
for
right.
questions
Sorry.
then. Thank you. Thank you. Here are the key takeaways from the public comment period. We heard, unsurprisingly, as we've heard in Zach's presentation earlier, that people wanted to increase support for biking, walking, and public transit, so multimodal infrastructure, to improve road safety and reduce fatalities, to address air quality with bold action to reduce car use, and to reduce spending on highway and parking expansion. I'm going to dig a little deeper into some of the themes that we're seeing under the active transportation theme. So happily, we do see calls for a connected network. This links up with our existing Bikeable Baltimore Region project. We heard from one commenter, they actually mentioned the project directly, that they feel like the proposed regional bike network is something they want to see investment in and funding in. We heard from other commenters, just in general, that they want the bike lanes to be connected. They want to have a connected system of active transportation infrastructure. Something else we heard is that people feel active transportation will provide safety benefits, especially for vulnerable road users. We heard that biking, walking, transit expansion is a key way to improve air quality in the region. And if there's continued reliance on cars in the region, air quality will not get better. This is something we heard from a lot of people. And to dig deeper into the comments, our responses, summary statistics and themes, you can go to Your Region, Your Voice /BRTB-tip. You'll be able to, from there, go to the interactive story map that has all the projects and read the full draft tip document. Just wanted to provide a short overview on the tip and what we've heard. Thank you. Now open to any questions.
I believe it's questions from the members first, please.
That's correct.
Members.
Yeah. Thanks, Regina. Let's see if any of the group have questions, then we'll shift over to public questions if there are any. Anyone? Okay, hearing none. Ellen, did you have a question earlier?
Yes, I do have a question. Actually, I have two questions. One is I was doing some research on the internet, and I noticed that the state of Maryland uses 69%, 69% of funds that go to highway improvements or highway maintenance comes from the gas tax and money that's paid through registration fees, that kind of thing. And then the rest of it comes from the general fund. What you're telling me here is that 80% of our transportation income or taxes or whatever is being used for highway maintenance or improvements. Is there any way that we can get the 80% mark to 69%? You know, where the 69% of where the funds come from, which is drivers and vehicle owners. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, we did hear from the public that people did want a reduction in funding towards highway capacity, especially. Currently, 50% of funds in the TIP are for highway preservation, and then another 8.6 are for highway capacity, making a total of less than 70% there. We have seen a decrease over time in highway capacity. For example, in 2021, highway capacity funding was 30% and it's now reduced. And we are seeing an increase in active transportation funding. If anyone, I put a contact in the chat for Keith Kacharik, who is our lead contact on the TIP. I mainly put together just the public feedback. And you can reach out to Keith for more details about that if you'd like. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I have one more quick question. Did we ever get a multimodal lane in the plan for the new Key Bridge?
I would have to look at the TIP document to answer that question. I don't have that off the top of my head. I'll put the link to the website where you can access the story map and the full TIP document to do your own research there also.
Thanks for those questions. And I would imagine that some of the projects that are aimed at highway improvements also impact transit. It'd be interesting to know how many of those are the case or other high occupancy lanes and so forth. Well, at this point in the meeting, we're actually at the roundtable discussion. Unless anything else, Mariam, from your...
No, just thanks everyone who gave their feedback, and feel free to look for more details on the website.
Thanks a lot for the update. We're going to shift over to the roundtable where the various member jurisdictions share updates on what's happening in their neck of the woods. As always, we start with my jurisdiction, Annapolis. So I'll go ahead and say, and I'll ask my colleague Will if he has any updates as well. But we're just continuing to work on a number of capital projects. Most important one is our West East Express Trail, which we've been working on for several years now, and we're actually getting very close to issuing an RFP for that this fall. And we just submitted our 100% construction documents to MDOT for review and SHA, and so that's very exciting. We have a couple other projects coming up, but that's the big one. And we're also going to be issuing an RFP for our citywide mobility action plan funded through Safe Streets for All in August. I'm hoping it's looking like that. So that'll be the city's first ever citywide mobility plan. It'll have a lot of focus on active transportation and safety for all users. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think that's the main update from our end. Will, anything you'd like to add? May have dropped off. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go to Anne Arundel County.
Hi, this is Daniel Allen from Anne Arundel County Office of Transportation. We have no updates to share at this time. Thank you.
Oops, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Baltimore City? Anyone from Baltimore City? If I know we have somebody from Baltimore County. Mitchell, maybe?
Hi, yep. I don't think we really have any new updates since last month.
All right, no worries. Carroll County? Anyone from Carroll County? Okay. Hartford County?
Hi, this is Khadija. Recently, we have been looking at some preliminary concepts for our Joppa Farm Road engineering study, and we will be using RK&K. And so far, we decided to go with an option, and that's as much as I know right now. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Khadija. Howard County, please.
Hey everybody, this is Pat Smith, planner in the Howard County Office of Transportation. Big thing we have going on right now is our work with MDOT on the bicycle pedestrian priority area, or BPA. We're currently doing a study for Elkridge, Maryland, and Howard County. We, excuse me, are advancing through the study. We're looking forward to starting stakeholder engagement next week, where we're going to have a sort of smaller stakeholder meeting, more selective during the day. And then later in the summer, we're going to have a full public meeting for the entire public to come in one evening, probably in August. So working toward getting those scheduled now.
All right. Thanks a lot. Next up, Queen Anne's County, we think might be missing today. I know Steve's not here. Anybody else from Queen Anne's? Okay. We're at the middle of the summer, which I guess a lot of people are out. MDE.
Hey, this is Catherine from MDE. I don't think I have any updates for the group at this moment. Thanks.
No problem. MDP.
Hey, this is Brooks Phelps from MDP. We don't have any updates at the moment.
All right. Let's see. Cynthia, I think Highway Safety Office. Okay, there.
Can't hear you, Cynthia.
Enemy.
Well,
Well,
I know she was going to say something, Eric, and
well, if we will go ahead and Cynthia, if you can fix the audio, we can get you before the list is through. Anybody from MTA here?
No update.
Okay. SHA? Molly, is she still on? Oh, it's a light round table today. Secretary's office, Meg. or Francine?
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, I'll share that what I thought was going to be the SHA update too. They announced 6 new quick build locations around the state. It's really exciting. Under SHA, we're continuing our Complete Streets quick builds that we started last year with the help of Smart Growth America and our Complete Streets Leadership Academy. But now it's going to be a SHA-led program, and so I'll share the press release in the chat that announces the 6 locations. They've now, I believe, designed all of the locations, and some of them are going to start being implemented, in the next week or two. So that's really exciting. And then from our office, you got the great presentation about the progress we're making on the sidewalk data. Quinn is our new active transportation planner who's joined the office. I'm very excited about that. And we've been continuing our MDOT in Motion series, which is our series of webinars about all things active transportation and complete streets, trying to take those policies and programs and show people what it looks like on the ground. So in July, we covered micromobility, and I'll share the link for the August registration. We're going to focus on back to school safety. So I put the quick build press release and the MDOT in Motion registration link both in the chat. And then last but not least, next Friday is the Maryland Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee that we staff. So if you want to hear about what other state agencies are also doing for biking and walking, you're invited to join that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Very exciting. And I noticed that Cynthia posted a link as well. Cynthia, were you able to get your audio working? You can come on it if you like, or
Is it working now?
yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, so the link that I posted in the chat tomorrow is our quarterly Vision Zero meeting. In that link has the agenda and the meeting link for the meeting 9 to 11 tomorrow morning. We also have gone ahead and issued our state-funded grants through our Highway Safety Office, and probably some of you on the call have already received an email from Cindy Birch, and I'll let her chime in if she has anything to add, but BMC did receive a safety grant for bike helmets and lights to be distributed in the region. Along with that, there's educational material that's out of my office that I'll be working with Cindy to put all of that together. We haven't done an official announcement of all of the other state grants, but if you have any questions on any of the state grants, you're more than welcome to reach out to me and I can let you know who we're working with, and hopefully we'll get some information out soon on all of those things. And as Meg mentioned, next month we're already gearing up for back to school, so I'll be looking at things for the start of the school year as well as October with walk to school days. So if anybody has any jurisdictions that are working with stuff, let me know. I'm happy to support and enhance those. Thanks.
Thank you, Cynthia. Much appreciated. Anything else, BMC?
Yeah, let's see, we're continuing to work on the Bikeable Baltimore Region project and working to wrap that up with the anticipated date of closing the project late August. So then we'll start sharing the materials and the story map, and of course, give an update to BPAG at the next meeting. We are also working on the Patapsco Regional Greenway Operations and Maintenance Guidelines project. And I want to thank our partners for helping us get our stakeholders to complete a survey on how they do operations and maintenance. And we're going to start booking the stakeholder interviews starting next month. And we are also, as you heard, we're kicking off the long range transportation plan bike ped scoring project. And we're continuing to work on the Patapsco Regional Greenway Cherry Hill preliminary design. And we'll come out to the public with some alternative alignments in the coming months. And I think that's all I had. Miriam, Cindy, did you have anything else?
Nope, nothing more from me either.
All right.
Oh, I will say, I'm sorry, real quick. I think you guys have gotten the information, and I'm sorry if you said this earlier, anyone, the VRU district meetings are going on. State Highways putting them on. And the one this evening is for Baltimore County and Baltimore City and Hartford County. And I just wanted to remind you guys, if you didn't have the information, we can always get it to you, but I'm sure that was mentioned earlier during SHA's presentation.
All right, thanks a lot. But we're at the point of any other business. I want to just say to everybody on the BPAG, we're always interested in hearing about interesting projects that might be happening elsewhere. I mean, I typically go over with Charlene ideas for outside presenters, but I just wanted to invite anybody on the BPAG to send an email if you have an idea for something and something that'd be worth sharing with the region. Don't hesitate to reach out. Ellen, you have your hand up. Is that from before or is it a new?
I have a general question, which nobody has to answer right now, but this is something that I'm interested in. Let's talk about the counties, Howard County, Carroll County, Baltimore County, even Baltimore City, Queen Anne's County, and anyone else. I'm interested in how the reps, the DOT reps that attend these meetings, what pool of money are they getting paid from when they work on pedestrian and micro mobility projects? Is that exclusively coming from the counties, or is there some state funds being used?
Good question. I'm sure Chris.
From the state, I'll say we only fund a very few number of staff positions through very specific programs like Safe Routes to School that can pay for up to 80% of a salary. So for the most part, we do not fund any of the positions.
I know that I don't want to go too deep into Anne Arundel County, so that's not who I represent, but with some of their capital roadway projects, there's a significant component of pedestrian connectivity and safety. And so while the funding might not be coming from a pedestrian specific state fund, they're getting state funding for the overall project, which might be, not specifically pedestrian, but that's something to keep in mind. So, but yeah, we can maybe take that up at the next meeting. It's a good question. That being said, we have our next meeting in September, which is September 17th. So look forward to seeing everybody then. Enjoy the rest of your summer and try to stay cool. And thanks again for joining today.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
I have a couple of comments, if you don't mind. Two things, real minor. This particular committee is called the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. And I beg of you, I participated in a number of other groups, and the word bike or bicycle, it seems to be a hot button for a lot of people. They imagine people in Lycra going 30 miles an hour. I beg of you, please, 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 if you can, change the bicycle word to micromobility because it's more inclusive. The other thing, and this is also very minor, I don't know how much interaction you have with Amtrak and Greyhound, but they've got a very silly rule, both of them, that says that you can't take a bicycle more than 50 pounds on each one of them. And that would be really great for us e-bike riders to have that moved up to 60 pounds. Thank you.
Appreciate those comments, Ellen. They are noted. All right. with that, we will adjourn. Thanks, everybody.